So we just had a conversation about the races that could be added in Midnight. A little bit of fun stuff about the Amani trolls, high elves. We know ethereals are on the chopping block. Maybe we get them soon. But races aside, what about classes? We've been talking about classes for a little while. Could we be getting a new class? The last class we got was Evokers. That was an expansion ago. Now we had an expansion where we didn't get a new class. Is it time for Blizzard to add another class to this game? Radiant Bards, Tinkers, and other classes, the new classes that could be coming in Midnight. Let's see what Taliesin and Avatel have to say about these new classes and the chances that we get them.
This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Of course it is. Where's my Squarespace sponsorship?
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today we are talking World of Warcraft Midnight. And we are talking the biggest new feature of World of Warcraft Midnight, the new playable class. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, that's great, Taliesin. Yeah, nice video. Has a new playable class actually been confirmed for the next expansion? Or is that just something you completely made up? And, okay, no, there is no confirmation that there will be any new playable class in Midnight at all.
Oh, let me
That's
move
what
my
makes
frame.
this such a great video. Because, I'm sorry, new expansion announcements, speculation, and fake leak season has been very disappointing so far, and I want to do my bit to get it rolling. But all of this is not...
Now, it has been disappointing so far, but that could mean one of two things. Either one, there's no leaks because there really isn't anything groundbreaking or cool coming, or two, the more exciting version of this, Blizzard's doing a really good job of hiding this, right? They're doing a really good job of hiding this new thing. Now, Blizzard did kind of do a good job of hiding the new spec. Remember when we found out Evokers were going to get a third spec? And we're like, oh, what's it going to be? And we were speculating and everything. But Blizzard did a really good job of actually holding back, and we couldn't figure out what it was. And the last thing we expected was preservation. Everyone thought, including myself, we were going to get some Black Dragonflight variant of tanking, which I actually still think they should have done rather than what they gave us. But Evokers came, not Evokers, Augmentation came out of nowhere. We didn't see it coming, and that's because Blizzard did a really good job of covering it up. So maybe that's what they're doing now.
Based on nothing. The last playable class to hit the game
Did I say preservation? Yeah, I meant augmentation. My bad.
back in Dragonflight, which means that Midnight is absolutely in line for one, especially if we want Midnight to recapture those exquisite Legion vibes, but in purple, which we absolutely do. And not only that, but there have been some very compelling rumblings and clues about the community, and so while we can't sit here and tell you that, yeah, there will be a new class announced at Gamescom later in the month, I think it's fair to say that a sizable part of the community is low-key expecting one. And we've now narrowed down...
That would be crazy. Now, he says Gamescom. I just want to remind you guys, we're going to watch that shit live on stream. But the Gamescom thing is just going to be the release of the cinematic. Blizzard is going to go live after the cinematic is released, and they're going to do their whole own live announcement thing and talk about all the features and everything coming in the expansion. We're going to watch both. We'll be live for that whole thing. That'll be exciting. But hey, new races announced that same day? That'd be crazy. Or so I should say no specs. Wild.
Potential candidates to 3 serious prospects, which I think stand a very good chance of being your next fave. So join us as we discover the new playable class in World of Warcraft Midnight.
Ooh.
Okay, go, 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 go.
No, not at this hour.
Demon Hunter. Okay, so we're starting...
August 18th, right? August 18th or 19th. That's the day that we're going to get this announcement. 19th. That's a Tuesday. Yep. August 19th will be the day we get the announcement of the expansion, Gamescom, all that shit's going to happen.
Small with something that is not even an entire new class, but rather a new specialization for a class, the Void Demon Hunter, which the community has decided will be called the Entropy Demon Hunter. And the reason that we're talking about this spec at all is because there is some pretty...
It makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. I don't disagree, but we just talked about it this morning. Brand new interview from Blizzard talking about Void Demon Hunter specs. And this was what the developer had to say. So it's certainly fun to explore on our end and see what kind of cool whatnots we can come up with class specs. In terms of a new class or spec, we have nothing to announce, but it does sound really cool. To me, this whole interview was like a letdown. I just feel like that it's not going to happen, that they're not going to make it based on what she said here. But, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she's just kind of, playing with our emotions here, and it is actually going to happen.
compelling evidence that it might really
They could
be
be
on its
BSing,
way,
yes.
with clues scattered about the new 11.2 zone Koresh. First, there was the announcement stream of the patch, which featured our first glimpses of the new zone, dungeon, raid, super big boy final boss, and blink and you'll miss it shot of an optional council fight in the Manaforge Omega raid, a trio of demon hunters, one of which, Adaris Dustblade, is distinctly voidy in nature.
Right, I would assume that they're giving 3 demon hunters here to represent the 3 different specs. Now, that could be another hint that we're going to actually get a void one, because that's what he is. This one's probably, we probably got one of these is Havoc, one of these is Vengeance as well. So that's probably how this fight will play out. They'll have mechanics based on their specs.
Adaris Dustblade is distinctly voidy in nature. Wowhead were all over this within minutes of the reveal stream, speculating that as the encounter featured 1 Havoc Demon Hunter and 1 Vengeance Demon Hunter, this 3rd purple dude could well represent a new 3rd specialization for the class. Not exactly the strongest evidence by itself, granted, but when the patch then hit the PTR later that day, very quickly a void-themed metamorphosis model and corresponding icon was data mined, which, okay, can probably be reasonable.
Also good hints, but this is probably the model for the boss fight. He's probably going to go into some kind of void form during the boss fight, and that's why this model shows up.
Explained as being related to the void-themed demon hunter boss that we were just talking about, but could also be interpreted as further evidence for this being a new playable option.
Could be.
Added to that, there's a whole non-campaign quest line in Koresh where you follow the Void Demon Hunter boss dude, Adaris Dustblade, and his Void Elf buddy, Leona Darkstrider, as they work together.
People tested the boss fight, and he doesn't transform, he doesn't go into a metamorphosis. Okay, so maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It is interesting. If he doesn't transform, why would they add in that void-themed metamorphosis then? That is a good hint then, if that's the case.
To make Adaris into that
maybe
Void
mythic,
Demon
maybe
Hunter, laying a strong in-game grounding for, that boss fight again, but also potentially Void Demon Hunters being playable. It's not as compelling as the evidence for the new Evoker spec in Dragonflight was, granted, but the player base is definitely very hyped about it indeed, with multiple images of the new imagined spec doing the rounds on social media, well and truly bringing...
Man, with AI now, remember, you see shit like this, you'd be like, this is real, it's got to be real. Now with AI and everything, man, you just know it's fake. You know it's not real. But it trips you out because this looks so legit. This totally looks like what you would see in the game.
Fake leak season back.
And they even make it look like it's a picture of a screen, right? Like, this isn't a screen, this is a picture of a PC screen.
Baby, something for which I am incredibly grateful. Thank you. And yes, sorry, but this is fake. The options on the specialization select screen are always in alphabetical order, except if the new spec was introduced after this new spec selection menu appeared in Dragonflight, in which case that new spec is always placed on the right, as is the case with Augmentation Evoker. This entropy option in the screenshot doesn't follow
center.
Either of those rules. I think we can quite safely discount it. If anything, I think the most likely outcome is that all of this will end up enabling a broadening of race restrictions for demon hunters, with void elves being able to don the blindfold and get tatted up. But what if all of this really is setting the scene for a 3rd Demon Hunter spec getting introduced in Midnight? How would that fit? And how would it work? Well, it definitely scores highly in being very thematic for the Midnight expansion, with its promised void attack on the Sunwell. A more tricky question is, what would a 3rd Demon Hunter spec actually offer players that the existing 2 don't already? They currently don't have access to...
Look, it's probably a DPS spec, I would assume. Maybe it could offer some augmentation-esque play, right? Because right now the problem with augmentation is if Blizzard makes like that whole buffing a party thing important, well then all it does is require augmentation to be brought into every single Mythic Plus run and every single raid. So that's why Blizzard's like having this issue where they don't want to require Devastation to be one of the 5 classes always selected for a Mythic Plus run. Not Devastation, Augmentation. I keep... These words, man. Words are words. They don't want to require augmentation to be brought into these groups, but then they don't want to nerf it so much that it's never useful. So the only way to kind of balance that out is to create more buffing specs. So maybe you get Void Hunter, maybe you get the Bard. He's going to talk about that in this video, I'm sure. When you get more buffing specs, then if you buff their ability to buff, well, now you're not just requiring augmentation to be brought. You get a bunch of classes that could be brought in for these runs. Should be an even better tank spec. Yeah, you're right, because Demon Hunters need an even better tank spec. You're right. You're just fucking with me, Tidewell. I appreciate that.
Or a ranged DPS option, but that's kind of for
Words
good
are words,
reason.
right.
The fantasy of a demon hunter is quite specific. They are agile melee fighters that go slashy slashy jumpy chargy. You could say that a range spec would be based on throwing glaives and other spiky things at baddies, and that's cool, but I mean, demon hunters already do that. You don't need to invent a new spec just for throw glaive, and I think a range specialization would just end up feeling like something that was made up for the sake of it and which doesn't really fit.
Yeah,
Likewise, a voidy demon hunter healing spec is literally insane. Let's be real, you're talking about a class that purposely burns their own eyes out, so consumed are they by their thirst for revenge. They don't care about healing, and even if they did, how are they going to do it? Throw medicine-coated glaives at their allies in the hope of cutting them just a little bit? Just enough to get the drugs into the bloodstream, but not enough to, like, dismember them? I'm going to rule out an augmentation-style support option for the same reasons, meaning that if there is...
I agree. In terms of, like, class fantasy, it doesn't really make sense for them to be all touchy-feely. I'm going to augment you as a demon hunter. But I just see Blizzard trying to figure out a way to balance out this whole new buffing style gameplay that they put into the game. Because right now it's kind of broken.
New Demon Hunter spec on the way. I think it's got to be another melee DPS, giving Demon Hunters the same loadout options as warriors, essentially. I like the idea of the new spec using two-handed weapons, like we see some of the Illidari wielding in Legion. A Void Demon Hunter with a scythe would be sick, and maybe their playstyle could reflect that bulkier, heavier weapon option. They could also have Void-themed sigils, like maybe a black hole one that slowly draws enemies into it, like a slow-motion mass grip, as well as that cool.
If I swear to God, I might uninstall the game if Blizzard gives Demon Hunters a mass grip. I'll fucking lose my mind. Because they're taking it away. We already know they're taking away slappy hands. There will be no more freaking slappy hands for Death Knights. We won't be able to mass grip anymore unless we're using like Gorfiend's Grasp, which is a bit different. If they take it away from us and give it to Demon Hunters, I'm just going to run around screaming, "My name is Illidan," wearing assless chaps for the rest of my life, and that'll be the end of Samiccus. I won't be able to mentally, I don't have the mental fortitude to handle that. They already favor Demon Hunters enough. They're already shitting on Death Knights. I can't do this. I can't.
Into it like a slow motion mass grip, as well as that cool void.
Thematically, it makes sense. Emotionally, I don't want it to happen. It'll break me.
All totally feasible, if not quite as likely, in my opinion, as just enabling Void Elf Demon Hunters, like I say. The other slightly pricklier question should probably be, would a new Demon Hunter spec really be enough? I know it's a very popular idea and a much requested addition to the game, but is it really going to scratch that new playable class for a new expansion itch? I'm not sure it would. And as a box feature for a new expansion, I can't help but feel that players would overall be disappointed by it. No, if we are really looking at options for a bona fide, fully fledged new class for Midnight, I think there are far better candidates elsewhere. Tinker. Yeah. For those of you that have been following this channel for a while now, you might well remember I
really thought this was happening in this patch. I really did. I thought we're going to undermine. That's it. Tinker class incoming. Here we go, boys. It's going to happen. And it didn't. And it didn't. And even when we went back, what was the patch where we got the mecha gnomes? Whatever that was, I thought that. I was like that. Oh, it's happening, boys. Tinkers are coming. And it didn't happen. So now, how are they going to fit it into Midnight? I mean, we talked a little bit about this. It actually makes more sense for these guys to show up in the Last Titan because we're going to Northrend, and there are like the original mecha gnomes created by the Titans. Like those exist there, so maybe you get it then. It's a requested class, and it was in the survey. Blizzard sent out a survey to a few people about which classes they would love to see in the game, and Tinkers were on that survey. So, I mean, Blizzard knows the fan base wants it. It's just when or if they will give it.
Very bold prediction that I made during BFA, that the Tinker was a nailed-on, dead-cert, obvious next playable class that was absolutely being planned and foreshadowed in the game, and which you could basically bet your entire house on arriving the following...
Not only that, the intro cutscene for BFA, when you're on the Broken Isles, King Mechatork is literally being a Tinker. He's sitting there in the giant mech suit, with the badass moment where he just presses the button and the freaking suit shoots that fell guard or whatever. It was badass. That was a cool scene. And yes, he was like legitimately right there in front of our eyes. That's what a Tinker's supposed to be. At least it's tanking spec. and we still didn't get it.
Expansion. And I don't know if I've ever actually said this out loud since, but yeah, sorry to everyone that lost their house on that one, because of course that next
it's not the same as
expansion
Slappy.
turned out to be Shadowlands, and it definitely did not come with a Tinker class. I was very wrong. But I still think that the work that Blizzard did to establish Tinkers as a potential class back in the days of Mechagon could yet find a use.
Could happen. Sam, give up. It's never going to happen. Look, I'm not a Tinker fanboy. I'm not going to play as a Tinker. I don't want them. I just think Blizzard needs to add another class with a tanking spec into the game. I think there's a lot of people just aren't tanking right now. There's a myriad of reasons for it. Maybe class fantasy. Some people just aren't into which classes could currently tank. There's also the thing that Blizzard's just shitting all over tanks lately, making tanking unbelievably hard in this game. But the other thing is, if you want new people to tank, hey, maybe give a new class that can tank. And Tinkers are an obvious one. The mech suit tank would be a fan favorite. A lot of people, I guarantee you, would try tanking for the first time because of the mech suit tank spec that Tinkers would get. That's my reason for saying I hope they add them to the game. I'm not going to play as a Tinker. I don't make gnomes. I don't play with the tiny races. I don't play with the whole furry orgy thing going on with Volpera. I'm not about that life. But I would be down to see Tinkers in the game.
Midnight, because fam, I think Tinkers could be back on the table once more, and this time I really mean it though. As a recognized class in the Warcraft universe since Warcraft 3, there is a number of absolutely huge advantages that a potential Tinker class has over any other option, and one of those is that they can thematically fit into just about any expansion, and it makes sense. Don't take my word for it, try it. Take any WoW expansion, pretend that a mech piloting Tinker class was added in that expansion, and it totally works. Burning Crusade, we're heading into space, so obviously we need to take our most cutting-edge technology with us to stand a chance against the Legion's machines. Tinker, we're heading to Northrend, where we will encounter the Titan Watchers and their advanced technology, including a mechanome in a literal mech suit. What can we learn from them? Tinkers! Oh lord, how will we ever defeat that huge dragon? Oh, did we mention you get playable goblins this expansion? Tinkers! The Horde Alliance bring their conflict into an otherwise peaceful new content. They're vehicles of war destroying the pristine environment. Tinkers. Oh shit man, the Iron Horde have massive machines way in advance of what they're supposed to have. Luckily we have some machines of our own. Tinkers. Biggest Legion invasion ever. Literal spaceship battles. Fell Tinkers. Big
literal
faction
cutscene
war where both sides have literal Tinkers fighting for them. Tinkers. Ironically, the one expansion in WoW's history where this class doesn't fit at all turned out to be the one expansion that I predicted it for. F you, Shadowlands. But with Midnight, it totally fits again. A lot's been made in recent short stories about the rebuilding of Silvermoon, as well as, of course, the 2 new player housing zones that we're getting, one of which has strong visual elements of the goblin-centric Ashara zone. I think there's a real theme of renewal and building for the future from what we know of next expansion. Tinkers, with their fun and useful technology, would vibe perfectly with that, as the boffins and their machines are repurposed from construction to combat as the
I can't believe he didn't mention Undermine patch Tinkers. I mean, that was the most obvious one.
void threat looms. On top of all that, there's the ominous spectre of Titan technology creeping into the World Soul saga throughout the War Within, with the Coreway and the Earthen and the Titan World Soul prison. You could make the Tinker class even more relevant by having them draw on those Titan influences to empower their machines further. What I'm saying is, there is a big old tick in the expansion themes box for Tinkers. The other thing I love about Tinkers is how easy I think it is to make them a unique and fully rounded class with a DPS.
It's obvious, yeah. You get your DPS spec. You could have melee and ranged DPS specs. You could have the ranged version being, they summon their mechs and they're, shooting with turrets and everything dropping down. You got a melee version with whatever. You're just doing tinkery things right up close. I don't know, dropping mines and shit like that. And then there's the obvious one, the tanking one in the mech suit that I mentioned before. And then the healing one. Yeah, healing bots everywhere. I mean, it's such an easy, it's a 4-spec class. That's why it's another good reason to introduce them. It's a druid, basically. You got your 4 specs easily laid out for you right there.
A tank and a healing spec. Because it kind of speaks for itself, right? A ranged DPS spec could use bombs and mines for damage and crowd control.
Yeah,
it could deploy
guns.
turrets to do some of its damage. It could do a metamorphosis style big cooldown where your character jumps into a mech suit to really F shit up. Healers could send out repair bots and drones, maybe deploy med stations that pulse out healing like totems, send out Mechatalk style escape pods to fly players out of combat like a priest grip or
That'd be
evoker
kinda cool.
swoop. They could zap out shields and protective domes. The possibilities are endless.
So
and
easy.
tanks, oh my word, tanks could suit up and stand toe-to-toe with enemies way above their weight class with the power of steel, landing huge hits and making sure their shield generators are always functioning properly to survive the big hits. In a playable sense,
Yeah,
they
you can only
absolutely offer something completely new to players to justify their existence as a new class, way more than Void Demon Hunters, let's be real. I legitimately think it would be fun to have only the small races be available to play this.
That's how I'd want it to be. If they did it, I'd want it to only be the small races. My God, Moishi, you are so angry in chat today, but I love it. I'd only want it to be the small races. You can give it to gnomes, obviously, mecha gnomes and gnomes on the Alliance, and you can give it to goblins and maybe Valpera on the Horde. I think those are like the obvious ones to give away. Besides that, I don't want to see like a Tauren. I don't want to see a Tauren in a mech suit. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't want to see Tinker classes be the bigger ones. And yes, Blizzard's all about spreading the love now. Everybody can be everything. You can be whatever you want to be. But there's still some classes out there with restrictions. Obviously, Evoker's one of them. There's also Demon Hunters are one of them. Death Knight, I don't think you can have every single race. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's still you can't have a Drakthir Death Knight. So there are some restrictions still out there. I think this one should come with restrictions. It should only be the tiny people. That's it.
Class, gnomes, mecha.
You could also add dwarves on top of there. I mean, because Earthen can be on the Horde now. The Horde essentially have dwarves. You can add dwarves as another race. They're the tallest race that should be able to do this.
Gnomes, goblins,
That's the
Valpera,
height limit.
dwarves, dark iron, and earthen. But I think that the absolute secret weapon for Tinkers is the new customizations that you could add. In the same way that when you start a Worgen, you also create on the side your
you make your
human
mech
version
suit?
of the character. When you create your Tinker, you
That'd be
should
cool.
be able to also create your mech suit from a range of options, which is a fundamental part of your character. Your tank jumps into it for all combat, and which the healing and DPS classes will use a bit more sparingly, but still plenty. And what an awesome sell that is, right? Come and play Midnight, everyone. You get to do player housing, and you get to design your very own Gundam of your dreams. Blizz would sell like a gabillion copies, and we know
Yeah.
it. So yeah, the hype score for Tinkers would be huge. They have a natural heritage in the game and would slot right in seamlessly. They offer cool new customizations and unique play style over 3 very obvious and natural feeling specs. I sincerely think that as a class concept, Tinkers have it all and are a natural choice for Midnight or Last Titan or basically any other
More
expansion
likely
you want
Last
to put them
Titan.
in. Bish bash bosh, job done. But there is one more candidate that's only really become a serious consideration for me very, very recently, which never really fitted before, but now makes perfect sense, and which I cannot stop thinking about as
What
a
is
new
it?
class for Midnight. It's bold, it's imaginative, it's a fantasy RPG staple that I never thought we'd see in WoW, and I'm going to tell you all about it just as soon as Evie's told you something.
Hey everyone!
Oh, we got a little Squarespace ad. I thought I did answer your question. Holy cow. What's up, Minnie? I wonder what this race is going to be.
You know what
But first,
I
we
love?
got no Squarespace.
A good break. Some properly quiet, low-key time. I'm kidding. I hate downtime, which is why I have kids, and why I love Squarespace, where it's uptime pretty much all of the time.
There it
Thanks,
is.
guys, for sponsoring this video. Now, I know everyone's thinking about 11.2, but the number you should really be looking out for is 7.1. No, we're not going back to Karazhan here. I'm talking about Squarespace 7.1. If you didn't know Squarespace had patches, well, now you do. And now you know where some of its latest
They're in their
and greatest
Karazhan phase.
features have come from. There's loads to celebrate about 7.1, but some of my favorite features are the highly detailed and easily customizable product detail pages for selling your swag with style, and the practically unbreakable Fluid engine, which is a godsend for the non-coders among us, as well well as the drag it and drop it enthusiasts. If you happen to be running 7.0 or God forbid, 5, never fear. Squarespace has got you covered with a very clear and easy to follow guide to getting your upgrade right. There's even a video guide to walk you through. And if you're ever in doubt, the Squarespace Help Center is there, and it is an amazing resource covering all bases of web design, domains, commerce, and more. There's even a guide, I'm serious, called What is Squarespace?
Wow.
Probably should have led with that one. Nothing beats a good patch, and this one is no exception. Why don't you head to squarespace.com/TaliusandEvitel, where you can enjoy all that 7.1 has to offer with 10% off your first purchase of a Squarespace website or domain. Or if you prefer, just use code TaliusandEvitel, and that discount will be all yours. That's squarespace.com/TaliusandEvitel. Squarespace really is better than ever. Can't wait for 7.2 now.
Bard.
Oh, there it is. Okay, the Bard. Yeah, when is the Sam merch coming out? I've talked about this before, but I'm working on Furry Forge, to make furry suits that I could sell to furries. Now, no, I'm not a furry. I don't want furry stuff in my game still, but that doesn't mean I can't profit off of them. So I'm still working on that. By working on it, I mean, it's still a concept in my mind, but Furry Forge will be a thing one day. One day I'll master the ability to make furry suits and sell them at an extremely high price to create amazing profit margins and basically, profit off of massive orgies, because that's always been my dream, of course.
Bard. Towards the end of last year, there was much excitement and internet content about a Blizzard survey that was reportedly sent out to random members of the German-speaking World of Warcraft community, outlining potential new classes that Blizzard were apparently considering adding to the game and gauging player reactions to each. I don't want to bang on about this too much, but the alleged survey is obviously as fake as shit, which is okay. I love fake leak season.
Wait, it was fake? This whole time I thought it was real. It was fake? Oh my God, I feel so duped. I don't even know what to freaking... I don't even know what's real anymore in the age of AI. You guys see that bunnies jumping on the trampoline thing? I thought that was real. It's going all over social media. The bunnies jumping on the trampoline in the middle of the night, supposedly captured like on somebody's camera at their home. I thought that shit was real. That's fake, guys. That was AI too. I'm actually AI. You're AI. We're just bots watching bots at this point. I don't even know. Damn it, I thought it was
my favorite season after maybe season 4 of The Wire. That is also a very good season. So I'm not saying this survey shouldn't have been made or shared or talked about or anything. Quite the opposite. But it is definitely clearly fake for lots of reasons. But the biggest giveaway is the fact that a fair amount of these potential new classes that it describes literally exist in the game already. So for example, if you said, hey Tally, can you describe a shaman to me real quick? I would say, yeah, sure. Shaman empower their weapons with the might of the elements to aid their allies, weaken foes, and create constructs to control the battlefield. And you'd be like, yeah, that is pretty spot on. But then I'd be like, psych, I didn't just describe an elemental shaman at all. I described the potential upcoming class, Battle Mage.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
And then you'd be like, okay, how would you describe Balanced Druid thematically? And I would reply with mighty spellcasters that can use the cosmic powers of the stars and gravity to deal devastating damage.
Makes
and you'd be
sense.
like, nicely put. And I'd be like, shut up, fool, that's not balanced at all. It's the new Astrologian class from the survey leak. Didn't you even know that? Are you dumb or something?
Unreal.
What's a WoW warrior like in just one sentence? Warrior uses spears and titan magic that are empowered by the gods for quick jumps and strikes. Cool, thanks. Lol, that's not warrior at all, you
Celestial
idiot. That's
Lancer.
the new Celestial's Lancer class, you absolute moron. You cretin. There are some original ideas in here though, like Tinkers.
Tinker.
That's an awesome idea. There's one particular idea in this post though that I thought was awesome at the time and which still lives absolutely rent-free in my tiny little mind ever since. Bard. Bard is my go-to class in RPGs. When we played a 3-year D&D game before the kids came along, ruined everything with their beautiful souls and unconditional love, I played a Bard. When me and Evie...
Bards, look, they could happen. They could go to the same point that I was making about augmentation earlier, that we need another class that's some kind of buff class if Blizzard really wants to go down this route, where you can actually have buff classes in the game and not only have augmentation get buffed or nerfed constantly to try to offset the fact that they are the only class that can currently do this. So yeah, that's why I see Bards being a viable thing. It could happen. Bard's been an RPG. It's been in lore forever when it comes to high fantasy stuff. And you guys watched The Witcher before it got completely trashed, and it went all off the freaking off the rails away from the actual Witcher storyline. The first season of The Witcher, the Bard, and that was freaking great. Toss a coin to your Witcher, O Valley of Plenty. It's such a good song, man. So Bards, it's a lore thing. It's already there. It's just a matter of whether they're going to do it or not.
Co-opted our first ever Baldur's Gate run through.
Yeah, I love
in the
that.
Best 30
Great
days
song.
of my gaming life. I played a bard with lashings of warlock. My first serious Final Fantasy XIV character, bard. I just really like the standard fantasy bard archetype. Quick talkers who are often everymen or folk heroes who use their charm and wit as a weapon, along
they're
with
cool.
their actual
They're cool.
weapons, which are all really fruity things like rapiers and pistols, and who cast spells using an actual musical instrument as a focus, as opposed to the more traditional staff or wand. The problem is, as I'm sure you know, bards don't exist even slightly in WoW. Nothing
At
like
all,
the bard
yep.
fantasy has ever existed in the Warcraft universe, and that's something I've come to terms with, At this stage, it's kind of too late. It would be really hard to add it to the game world now without it seeming very odd. With evokers, you could just say, oh yeah, they were asleep underground for 10,000 years, that's
Right.
why you've never seen an evoker before. And that was still kind of weird, actually, but even that excuse doesn't work for magic people who play instruments. Oh yeah, actually there's always been magic people who play instruments, but they all went to a different school. That's why you didn't see them for the last 30
Right.
years, yeah. This fake leak, though, actually solves the problem in a really beautiful way that I love. They connect bard magic to the Radiant Song. Bards utilize the Song of Azeroth to cast mighty spells. The Radiant Song first became a thing towards the end of Dragonflight, when
That's a good
Jaina
way to
and
put it,
Thrall
actually.
revealed to each other that as the new world tree Amirdrasil took root, they began hearing a voice, a beautiful song calling to them, and they were not the only ones. Hearing the song is what brings grizzled Anduin out of hiding, and it becomes clear that it seems to be the Radiant Song of the world soul Azeroth herself. And this is obviously explained more and becoming more and more important as the World Soul saga progresses, but the main thing is we have now established there is a literal song of the World Soul that has suddenly been reaching out to people all across the planet. And yeah, maybe some of those people grow a beard and get all moody about it.
will be another
but maybe
brewmaster?
some of them would be like, oh wow, that's pretty awesome.
really.
I wonder if I can focus this ancient song into magic somehow. I should use this lute and try. And boom, we have
The thing about Bard that's kind of hard for me to conceptualize is, okay, you bring the Bard class, what are their specs? Because, like, Bard is just a buffing class. What else could you do? I mean, I guess you could have a healing spec for them, and you could have a buffing spec. So maybe I just solved it right there in my head. It's a 2-spec class. That's it. I can't imagine really Bards DPSing. I mean, using songs to DPS would kind of be weird and conceptual to conceptualize. But yeah, I guess healing and buffing, like that would be there too.
bards.
They're a support
but
class.
very specifically WoW-flavored bards. It's so elegant, and I would love it to happen. But what would that
Heal slash buff slash. They would have 2 healing specs essentially. They would have the buff slash healing, basically discipline priest and holy priest. Like that's how you'd kind of roll with it. At least that's how I see it.
our class look like? Leather wearers, obviously, open to all races.
DPS
Obviously, this
buff,
is a universal kind
heal
of class.
kind of thing.
Traditionally, bards are seen as support classes, using their songs to empower and buff others.
Mosh pit.
So obviously, an augmentation style spec would definitely be on the table. Personally,
Yeah.
I would be far more interested in bards as pure DPS and healer specs. The healer speaks for itself. I feel like the songs you sing and the spells that you cast would work best as a dot play style like Resto Druid, where your allies are literally enveloped by the music that then heals them over time. And as for DPS, I would love to see a range spec using not only their musical focus, but also guns and bows. Yes,
I guess I could see a bard using a bow. Sure, yeah, why not? That kind of works. Sam, what do we play next? I'm playing my Blood DK. It's what I play every season. Or Bard. I play Bard.
I think one of the coolest things about ranged
Pre-watched.
bards is that they could actually be the game's second ever bow-wielding class. It fits the fantasy, and I just think it would be really neat. You could have a melee spec that uses a single-handed sword and has physical attributes based around cheeky dueling moves as if they were fencing.
I could imagine like a bard if they're a melee using like a cutlass, right? Like a very thin, sharp sword. I can't imagine them using like a big boy, big dick sword. But yeah, like tiny blades, daggers, cutlass swords. Yeah, sure.
Every case, though, whether they be wielding a bow or a sword, they will also
Rapier,
have
yeah.
a special offhand slot for their instrument spell focus. Much of their spellcasting is going to be based around songs and music, so part of being a bard in WoW is going to be choosing your instrument. And the style of instrument that you pick is basically just cosmetic flavor. It can be swapped out at the class trainer anytime you fancy, but you'd be able to choose stuff like lutes and lyres and flutes and drums, and these items would be visible on your character when you did your spellcasting. Loot drops could include new bard-only weapon appearances to collect from dungeons and raids and stuff, and Inscription could even get a new talent tree branch that creates music.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to imagine their fighting style, it'd be like fencing. I could imagine a bard fighting like a fencer would, you know, the in and out, the dip and dash kind of stuff. Not like outright, just swinging around, but that kind of dip and duck and dive and poke kind of style.
Books that bards could then use to learn songs, which are then playable for people around them to hear.
Sam just
so you can
described
regale your raid in between pulls, or the unsuspecting but definitely delighted citizens of Ogrimmar, or your new player housing neighborhood. There is so much cool stuff that this class could do beyond the obvious specializations that would make bards a genuinely brilliant addition to the game. And using the Radiant song as a source and explanation of their suddenly appeared power means that this is a class that is relevant to the current story, has a rich fantasy RPG heritage, a unique play style with multiple obvious specializations, and as an added bonus, off the charts RP potential. My heart absolutely belongs to Bard as a future playable race.
I mean, yeah, in terms of RP, I could imagine a bard sitting there in the new class, you know, and the new neighborhoods for the player housing area, just sitting on a bench in the middle of the neighborhood playing their song away. You know, as two Volpera run into the basement of a local home to do their thing that they're going to do because, you know, furries, they do things. So, it does fit kind of the aesthetic of WoW. I like I said, high fantasy aesthetic bards, they already exist. So it wouldn't be shocking to me if bards were suddenly in the world.
And whether it be Midnight or Last Titan, which
they could taunt with their music,
expansion where it might fit a little better thematically, I would relish seeing it become a reality. But what do you think? How likely are the three candidates we present as actually appearing in Midnight? Is there another obvious option that we've missed out? What would be the class you would most like to see? Let us know in the comments below. And thanks for joining us today. If you like this video, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give us their actual real life money to make all of our work happen. And seriously, patrons, as always, thank you. Because without you, there would be a whole lot less Taliesin and Evertel. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. And remember, my name is Unoptimized Fool. No, my name is Taliesin from me and Evie. Until next time, cheerio.
Which one would I like to see the most? Probably Tinker. That's probably the one that I just think makes the most sense. It's the easiest to implement. Most specs it's so easy to conceptualize. It already exists in the game. It existed in original Warcraft. That one's just an easy drop, plug and play. The Bard now, I could see it, but I think that would take more work for sure on the Blizzard side, and it's something that I don't find as interesting as, say, a Tinker. Would I play any of them? No, I'm going to play my Blood DK still. But they would be cool additions to the game, and they would be popular for sure. A nice video from Taliesin and Evertel.